September 25th, 1789, is a date most Americans are not familiar with in relation to our national history. It isn't given the attention of, say, the 4th of July or President's Day or Thanksgiving, but it is extremely important to what America would become. While it's true that the 4th of July 1776 was the day of our Declaration of Independence to England and the beginning of the American Revolution, it wasn't until September 25th, 1789 that the future 4th President of America, James Madison, would complete the document describing how we as citizens of a new American nation would define our individually guaranteed rights that would be protected by the new federal government, while adding some additional limitations of the government towards the citizens and of the individual state rights. His original proposal of amendments included a total of 12 and wanted them incorporated into the Constitution. Articles 3 through 12 were debated and eventually ratified on December 15, 1791, but were done so as a supplement document to the Constitution, listed as Amendments 1 through 10, to become known as the Bill of Rights. His second proposal was finally ratified as the 27th Amendment on May 5, 1992, 2 centuries after it was written, which dealt with the salaries of Congress. The first article deals with the number of members of the House of Representatives to be set by constitutional law rather than House-approved statutes, and even to this day has yet to be passed, standing as the first written and only proposal of Madison's masterpiece to not be ratified. For historical context, the Bill of Rights was written as a compromise to gain favor and votes from the Anti-Federalists, who were fundamentally against having a federal government. They wanted to be free of restraints imposed by others, but also were practical in knowing the strategic and military advantages to safety in numbers. Each state had fought for their newly secured independence, but were collectively a war-torn infant nation going down a new, untested path of democracy. Today, many argue that the First Amendment is put first due to its importance to the citizens as a unifying bond of freedom. But in fact, it was originally third in line behind Congress's head counting and their salaries. However, it is the First Amendment over the past 230 years that has given rise to authenticating the promise of America's pursuit of a more perfect union. Voting rights and citizenship for blacks, voting rights for women, civil rights, prohibition, and the overturning of it. The American Revolution itself began with the belief of free speech to debate the idea of a free America, which was at the time considered treason by England. At the time of its founding, America was an experiment in giving the right of free speech, which includes a critical press to investigate and report the truth to its citizens, ability to petition the government for change, but it also gave a freedom and a home to people to practice and live a faithful life to any religion they see fit, or no religion at all without the government's interference. There isn't a state-sponsored or national religion in America. This allows people of all backgrounds to flourish in diversity of faith and beliefs, while also setting the stage for political debate from the working class to the upper class. This seems like the central and most basic freedoms anyone claiming to be free should have to enjoy, and it very much should be. However, humans are a naturally social and tribal species, if you lean on science, and well documented into tribes as God's creation in all holy textbooks. From the moment we collected ourselves into groups, then tribes, there was always a neighboring group. Those with similar beliefs and customs were collected into larger pools of organization and cooperation for the betterment of their livelihoods, and those who didn't were thought of negatively with everything from indifference to outright hatred and fear. It would be many years before an actual civilization would sprout up out of the tribal mess who wanted an end to the warring and to pull resources together for the betterment of their livelihoods. And this gave rise to philosophy, ethics, a public government, which led to debate and politics. As before, those who pulled together as neighbors with a different view of faith, philosophy, ethics, governments, and disapproved of the mere debate of politics, once again looked upon the other with everything from indifference to outright hatred and fear. This continued on a global scale as nations rose throughout history with horrific and devastating results. Entire countries would continue the trend, wiping millions of lives from history as countries conquered one another until the end of World War II. It wasn't until then that America finds itself as the beacon of hope and peaceful diplomacy and proven democracy. Despite our losses in 2 world wars, we never suffered a mainland attack to have to rebuild from. In fact, no one has attacked the lower 48 states with the military since we decided to do it to ourselves in a civil war, which was over faith, philosophy, ethics, state versus federal rights, and politics within our own country and people, brother fighting brother. It was the bloodiest war we have ever fought in our nation's history, and it was among ourselves, beginning with open debate that utilized the First Amendment and our freedom of speech to enact great change while abolishing the slave trade that had begun under English rule. Right or wrong, based on your politics, America has had a role as the world police and diplomatic arbiters since the end of World War II. We are the #1 place for immigrants to move to from peaceful and warring nations alike, where foreigners believe in our system of equality and justice will provide an opportunity to succeed as anyone from anywhere and any background. We are the richest and most charitable nation to those countries in need on earth, as America is its current sole superpower. America is responsible for some of the most important advances in research and scientific discovery and technological advancements. We were the first to put a man on the moon, cultivated the world's greatest military and economy while helping the world prevent, relieve, or cure countless diseases, including the vaccines for the COVID-19 pandemic we're all facing now. All of these great achievements began with those who spoke freely of an American nation, which, to be fair, was its own disagreement with England over faith, philosophy, ethics, politics. I think you can see the theme by now. The First Amendment works its magic as long as it has a shared faith. The same is true of every amendment and every letter of the Constitution. Much like Christians who believe the Holy Bible to be the living Word of God, so too is it necessity to believe the same of our founding fathers to the Constitution. Good or bad, right or wrong, the First Amendment has to be an absolute gospel to our nation, so that it can protect every citizen with a voice that can praise or denounce, able to assemble, to unify, or protest, and a free press that is allowed to inform people of all different religious and political beliefs of what they wish to report. Free speech and press can be censored for foul language, but not for content. Daring to cross that line for political reasons or to stifle debate and dissent is not only constitutionally un-American, but crosses the line into fascism. Fascism is defined as following: a governmental system led by a dictator having complete power, forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism, regimenting all industry, commerce, and emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism. Now, in the next video, I'll introduce the very infectious and wild-spreading virus attacking our First Amendment that is one of the offspring of fascism, cancel culture, and show it to be the gateway by which the rest of fascism's definition will emerge through the very soil of America's great land. That wraps up video 1 of Uncanceled History. Please hit that bell, subscribe, and follow along. More videos will be coming for your education of American history.